So, hello and welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and I am so joyful to bring you today. Is it Julie Oreson Perkins? Is that
Yes.
it, right? Yeah. So, Julie is a fantastic kind of life coach, facilitator, and she has a particular gift with teens. And Julie and her two teens are in creation for all kinds of good stuff in the world. And welcome to our call today. Yeah.
Thank you, Erica. I'm sorry that the teens couldn't be with us, but as you said, they're out creating all kinds of interesting things. Our daughter Christy is at boarding school in California at an arts boarding high school and creating music and singing songs there. And our son Connor, he's out working and creating some money to go study abroad this summer. So, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. So, Julie and I were working together on releasing judgment. And in the new book, The Power of Releasing Judgment, she has a fabulous chapter. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about that and kind of, I think you are going to share a tool with us too.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that, judgment is just one of those things that is so pervasive. It can kind of encroach in all areas of your life. And so, in talking to my teens and asking questions about, like, well, what is it that we know and what is it that we could contribute back to other parents and teens? What particular area of life really do you feel that impact of judgment? And that's where we came up with bodies. So actually our physical body, and the title of our chapter is called Creating Bodies Without Judgment. And how we spelled bodies is not B-O-D-I-E-S. We spelled it B-O-D-hyphen-E-A-S-E. So how to have ease with your bod. So that's kind of where we landed with it. And that's where we wanted to be an invitation for people to be aware of when you drop judgments onto your body, what happens with that. And it really creates, that's the genesis of what we call dis-ease. So not having some kind of ease within your body, and literally in some cases diseases as we know them by Western and modern medicine.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And right in the middle of this, and whenever I have a question, I go with it because I figure I'm not only asking for me, I'm asking for the people who are listening and watching.
Absolutely.
And they come in. So one of the things I've sort of been reflecting on lately is how almost everyone dislikes part of their body.
Yes.
If it's too big or too small. And I was like, if so you put 100 people lined up, and every single person thinks they're this or they're that, or their breasts are too big, or their butt's too small, or their thighs are too big, or their feet are too small, or their shoulders aren't big enough, or their pecs aren't this enough, or their abs aren't that enough. If every single person feels like they're wrong, no matter what they are, it's like, I was like, how do you get an answer? Like, I was like, how, if ever, right? Because almost everyone is obsessed with something about them that's not
right.
Okay. And whether you weigh 100 or 300, it doesn't matter. It's like people are still unhappy with something. And so maybe just share with me, because it seems like with my teens, so for me, I still have issues around that, but it started in my teens.
Right. And so, the teen years, from my perspective, and I know the kids are here contributing energetically, but just by how they roll. The teen years are those years of exploration. You're old enough to take care of yourself physically. You're having some biochemical changes, some physiological changes, and everything's opening up. And with that opening up, what happens is we become aware of a lot of what's going on, especially in our peer group. And so what we have really found is that all of those opinions, all of those perspectives, we're aware of, but we're kind of like we're swimming in the pond with all of them, and we can get really saturated with them. And so as you're sponging that up, it's actually the tool that we want to get into, what we wanted to give today was from Access Consciousness. Who does that belong to? And so the first key is that really your opinion that you're to whatever? Is that really, does that belong to you? Or have you adopted that? Have you bought that lie? Have you picked that up and made that your own from somewhere else? And, you know, the kids will tell you it's usually from peer group or from the media.
Or for me, like, it was generations. So it was my grandma and my mom. Both felt like being shaped a certain way, having these.
Yes.
Wrong. And then I got them genetically from them.
Yeah.
Along with the baggage of thinking they're terrible.
Right. Yeah, we actually have a little segment in our chapter called Family Inheritance. You know, we just kind of pass the stuff down. It's like, hey, look, here's a handmade quilt. Here's a family photo album. Here's a hope chest. And here's a big old box of crap about what your body is going to happen to you. You're going to get this way because grandma and great grandma did. And that's just the way it is, you know. So
when I listen to my daughters and they're now covering up theirs.
Yes.
And I'm like, but I've been working on being okay with it. Like, why aren't they okay with it? And somehow the belief systems that don't belong to us.
Right.
I mean, they don't belong to you, right? They can't belong to you, right? Like, if it's really nasty and mean about yourself.
Yeah, and so, you know, the body's such a miraculous, wonderful thing, and it has its own wisdom. And it's actually the body that's not saying, oh, does this make you look fat? The body has a consciousness. It's not saying that judgment.
Look big, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the body doesn't do that. It's us that is saying that. And the body is just a response. The body will be like, oh, okay, we're fat. Great. Okay, we're sick and tired. All right, we're sick and tired. So, you know, really be aware of what it is you're saying or what it is you're swallowing as a belief.
Wow.
Because as you ingest that, the body says, okay, whatever it is you want, that, you know, oh, you're asking for that? Hang on, let me give you that. So in asking that, you know, who does this belong to? If you can kind of get an awareness of that, and then you can just say, no, thank you. I'm going to return that to sender with some consciousness attached so that perhaps that person can come to the same awareness. If you bought it from down the line, okay, or if you bought it from a peer, or if you bought it from a TV commercial.
Right, or you bought it because Twiggy was popular.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, I look around, it's so funny. It's like, I'm now in my 50s, and suddenly my body shape and my hair, all the things I hated because I wanted straight hair, and I wanted a straight body, and now curvy and curly is in. I'm like, really? Now? Really? I'm almost 60, and it's like, what? I'm like cracking up. I'm like, no flippin' way. Suddenly my shape, my Italian heritage or whatever become the bomb, and I'm like cracking up. I'm laughing so hard because it's like, I wanted Twiggy, and that was not that. My body was not going to be that. So
exactly.
Then you just set up dissonance.
Exactly. You know, and what would it take for us to all to just kind of like team with your body? Hey, body, what feels comfortable for you?
Yeah.
Not what feels easy and ease for you.
Yeah.
What do we want to create together here? You know, so like that well-fit pair of jeans, it's like, oh, yeah. You know, and then you kind of look at the tag and see the size and you go, oh. You know, what would it take to change that? These fit well. They feel good to my body. I'm comfortable in them. I can be in them all of the entire day.
Right.
Those are the kinds of questions that, the
Right.
kids and I like to explore. It doesn't really matter the size. The truth about the sizing is you can pick 3 things of the same size and lay them out comparatively, and it wouldn't be the same size anyway. It's all just made up. A large for this brand is not the same as a large for that brand. So if that's the case, why are we swallowing all those lies? Those are the kinds of questions that we like to ask and play with now. And get to the place right where you are at, Erica, where you're laughing about it, just like, oh yeah, how ridiculous this is.
I mean, I feel like the body does seem to be a place where people lapse into that. I almost call it like this isn't right, but I'm getting close to it. Like the unforgivable. Like I don't forgive myself for being like this. Or even if what I've noticed in the self-help community is I have cancer, so I must have screwed up. It's
Yes.
like I have cancer, so I'm bad. It's
Yes.
like whole hatred of self. And I don't have cancer personally, but I'm just saying like there's this, I have this, and since I take responsibility for everything, I almost see it like turned in on oneself, and this almost like
Right.
almost like a hatred in it in the self-help community, and it's crazy. It's like crazy. So kind of what can be done to shift that so people aren't so kind of, do you know what I'm saying? That whole
Yeah.
thing?
I think, what we would say to that is to just be aware of when you're doing that. Just like, oh, what's going on? Or just stop. What's going on here right now? What is happening right now? And that self-judgment is like a missile. It just shoots right into you. And it's one of the biggest,
Yeah.
areas of dis-ease and self-judgment and even borderline abuse, how we just keep running that. And so the only way to stop running that tape, and I'll use that word intentionally, running that tape like a cassette tape, that's how old it is, right? The only way to stop running that tape is to break the loop with a pause, and it's like, what's happening here? What's going on here? That's why I think that working together with the teens was such a powerful thing. Because we gave each other permission to call each other on stuff and ask each other stuff as we were kept running in these circles. And it freed all of us by one person or two of us at different times making the choice to pause, recognize, acknowledge that that's what it is, and then choose to change that.
Wow.
I love
that. I love that because the one thing that I get so excited about is how changeable we are.
Yes.
Like the loops that played, it's fascinating to me when you make some choices, you don't have to be perfect. Like you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it completely right. Like here, I'll just do a second. I'm playing with the devices.
Awesome.
It's gonna be better. I'm amazed. Like one of the things I had read was even when like some horrible experience, or say a parent was always mean to you about your body, when that parent dies or when that parent leaves, you can keep looping that messages.
Yes.
But you can also not loop them.
Yes.
Like one of the things I had somehow bought into was I can't get rid of that. Because it was, because it was looped so hard at me, or with me, or I had chosen to let that play so hard in my, that I couldn't change the song, that I was only given 5 songs, instead of 5 trillion, right?
iTunes, Spotify, how many choices are there?
Right? I know. So I have to tell you something really funny that I did when I was 17. For some reason, I feel like sharing this. I had gotten really heavy before I was going to college. So I'd gained, I don't know, maybe 50 pounds. I was in a deep state of, my parents called me fat every day because my body started being thicker, and I just got fatter and fatter and fatter. And so I spent the summer before college. I was basically alone, but I basically living alone by then. So I was 17, and I got the song "You Are So Beautiful" by and this is before any of this, right? This is 40 years ago. You Are So Beautiful, and it was can't remember. Oh, Billy Preston singing it, and it was on a record.
Yeah.
And I would lay on the floor and play it.
Yeah.
And right before I went to college, I lost the weight.
Wow.
And I just went to college like Erica again. So isn't that fascinating? And then I just dropped it, and I didn't change I didn't worry about dieting. I didn't worry about like extra. I liked exercise anyway, so I didn't worry about anything. I just every morning I played "You Are So Beautiful," and then anytime I felt bad, I'd lay down and play it again.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
I love that. And do you recall what was going on for you while you were laying there?
I just laid there and listened to it and felt beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you were talking, all the imagery that I was getting was that you were like this big sponge, just sort of soaking it in and lapping it up, you know? And so that works both ways. So what is it that you're absorbing, right? Absorbing all the crap? Absorbing the "You Are So Beautiful."
Right. Right. And how easy it is to change. I mean, that was like 30 days of my life.
Right.
And I didn't do it again.
You became aware of it. You made a choice.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing that really happens. That is like, all right, I'm going to have to sit down and change this now. I'm going to have to get the master plan, all 500 steps, and all the things in place. And it's going to be long and hard. And, it's like, no wonder we're exhausted, right? So I wonder why we don't choose, because that's another entrainment, to how things are done. Big things are done that way.
Yeah.
That's another amazing.
So on Who Does This Belong To? Maybe just give me some more. I love that we've shared that information with the listeners. Why don't you go into that a little bit more as far as like, you walk into a store and then everybody looks at you and you feel this or that and you leave feeling worse, especially if you go to, say, my kids play sports if they have a bad game, and all the parents are all there and there's a little judgment running around.
Yeah. And so this one took us a little while to get, because we had to kind of do it in stages. The first stage was to really get a clear sense of what our energy was. And so when the kids were little, we used to do the bubble exercise. We'd put ourselves in a bubble and we would flush out anything that's not ours.
Really?
And we'd do that. And, especially Christy at nighttime, she would just be having so much trouble settling down to go to sleep. And we'd put her in the bubble and we're like a flush, and just anything that's not yours, get it out of there.
Wow.
And we could color our bubble and just really, get in that space of how beautiful she was or how she is and who she is in that space, So that could be an interim step too for, going out into those places where there are so many judgments floating around, swimming around that you could be bombarded with. Okay, so that was like the first thing that we did. The second thing that we did was just start to get a little bit more flexibility in that bubble. So it was kind of like the cell. Remember in biology when they taught you about
cell membranes? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The membrane and the food and the nutrients could come in, the thing that was going to sustain the life of the cell, but then other stuff couldn't come in because it was different sized molecules and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so then we kind of got it to that point. So you could, let some things in as long as it was contributing to you and nourishing you. And now we've gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I really want to be aware of everything. But that's after we've been building this muscle, of what's mine, not yours, And then we kind of like shed the bubble altogether. And it's like, what am I aware of here? Who does this belong to? And if it doesn't feel like that nice space of you that you've been working with, then it's not yours. And guess what? It's like 99% of it is not yours.
Yeah.
So if you walk into the grocery store singing a tune and happy, and you walk out kind of grumpy,
not yours.
Venture a guess, it's not yours. And you think, oh, you know what? Return to sender with consciousness. Yeah. You're not projecting it back there like, you idiots, you made me cranky. You know, that's not what we're talking about. We're just saying, oh, yeah, not mine. And like kind of like if the postman misdelivered a package to you, you're just going to say, oh, here, I'm sorry. This was misdirected, mismailed.
Right.
It's yours. And I set it on your doorstep, and you can choose it if you want, but I'm just not choosing it.
Nice.
And you can do
it. I
it.
love it. Well, this interview just went way too fast.
I know.
It feels like it was 1 minute long, so I know it was wonderful. Because whenever anything feels like it was 1 minute, then I know it was like fabulous. So we had a great interview, and just tell people where they can reach you and find you. I know you're available for facilitation, consultations, and help. So how can we find
Erica.
you?
Yes, to find out more about Who Does This Belong To, you can go to www.drdane, D-A-I-N, here, HEER.com, and look up Who Does This Belong To. And to find me, you can find me at www.julie, middle initial O, last name Perkins.com.
Awesome.
Thanks, Erica. Talk to you soon.